Hey guys, this is Mrs. Frazier, and I'm going to go through your Pythagorean theorem foldable with you. Your Pythagorean theorem foldable should be folded as a trifold. You're going to glue this into your notebook and fill it in as you listen to the video. You're going to want a pencil, and you're going to want a blue and yellow highlighter. Okay, so let's start by reviewing our Pythagorean theorem. Let's start at the very basics of where we began, when we learned that a squared plus b squared equals c squared, and why that works. So we learned that the area of the square of the leg of a right triangle plus the area of a second leg of a square of the second leg of a right triangle, when added together, the sum, fix that, okay, the sum will equal the area of the larger square. Okay, so we spent a lot of time looking at this, and as you can see here, what we spent time looking at was that if I found the area of this small square, it would be 9. Of the larger square, I have 16. And when I combine them, I get 25, which is the area of my largest square. And we can use this to help find the side lengths. So my side lengths are 3, 4, and 5 by finding the square root of each of these areas. From there, we went to the parts of our right triangle. Because in order to solve, we have to always know our parts, and we're not always given 3 squares off of our triangle. So we learned that the legs of our triangles are the 2 pieces that make our right angle. So the 2 rays that make our right angle are our legs. And we call these A and B in our Pythagorean theorem. And then we learned that new word. I thought I picked blue there. We learned that new word, hypotenuse. And the hypotenuse is the third side of our triangle. It's the longest side of our triangle. We call this side C. And it's always across from my right angle. So if we draw an arrow from my right angle, that can help us find our hypotenuse. Okay, so let's look at some examples and what the Pythagorean theorem can help us do. Okay, we already know our vocabulary, but just to re-emphasize, I've got my right angle, always marked by a box, 90 degrees. I've got the 2 legs of my right triangle. I'm going to draw this one a little differently so you can see. I have the hypotenuse of my right triangle, always found across from the right angle. And finally, I have the square root. Okay, and the square root helps us find the side length of the triangle. Okay, so there's three things we can do with the Pythagorean theorem. We can solve to see if it's a right triangle, if all three numbers are given. We can solve to find a missing side of our triangle if we're looking for the hypotenuse. And we can also solve for the length of a leg. So we're going to do three of these, and then you're going to do the other three on your own. So let's start to see if it's a right triangle. Remember, if it's a right triangle, my two legs, a squared plus b squared, will equal c squared. So 5 squared, imagine the area of a square of 5, plus 12 squared will equal 13 squared if it's a right triangle. So I have 25 plus 144, and 13 squared is 169. Is 25 plus 144 169? Hopefully you said yes. So that means it is a right triangle. Okay, so then we can also solve for the hypotenuse. So I know I'm solving for the hypotenuse because it's across from my right angle. So I'm going to go through my same steps of a squared plus b squared equals c squared. I'm going to plug in 8 squared plus 15 squared, and this will give me my longest side, or my largest area square of C. 64 plus 225 will give me C squared. 64 plus 225 is 289. This gives me C squared, so this gives me the area of my square. Now I just have to remember to do my square root so that I can find the side length. So I'm going to do the square root of 289, which will give me C squared. So C will equal 17. Okay, last we can solve for the length of a leg. So remember, my Pythagorean theorem is a squared plus b squared equals c squared. This time I'm going to have 9 squared plus b squared equals 15 squared. So I'm going to be able to find the areas of a leg and of the square of my hypotenuse. So I need to find my smaller square here. So think of the water video that you watched. And when you pour the water back into the squares, how could you find the area of the square? That is a smaller square. Okay, so I'm going to have 81 plus b squared equals 225. So to find my area that adds to the 81 to make 225, I'm just going to subtract. And I have to subtract from both sides to keep my equation balanced. So I'm going to be left with b squared equals 144. Well, if the area of the square equals 144, I know I need to square root it to get b. So the side length of my square, and therefore the side length of my triangle, will equal 12. Okay, you can pause the video, make sure you have all this information. Please then complete the other 3 examples in your Foldable and check with your teacher.